Hey everybody, welcome back to the wood shop. If you have been watching our antique table restoration series, well, you'll know by this point that we've took the table apart, we've stripped it of all its finish, and we've started doing repairs on it. But there is one repair we have to do that we figured we'd make a separate video for this because it would have made the last one a little too long. And that is, we've got to replicate one of these. The table came to us with one of these pieces of apron missing, and we're going to have to try to make this.
That's right. We have some red oak here. Now, we've said before, we think this table is white oak, and we have done the best we can at getting all of the old finish off. I think in this particular scenario, it might play to our advantage when we go to color match. So we've done a little bit of testing with some pine, and we think we have a method that is going to work, and you'll never know the difference. So let's get started.
Well, this piece of oak was left over from something else we had been making here in the shop, and you can see it's still rough. It's not been planed yet, so that's step number one. The thickness of this apron is 3/4 of an inch, so we're going to plane this down to 3/4 of an inch. Alright, the next step in the process, we're going to edge joint this and rip off a piece that's 3.5 inches wide, the same as this. Then we will cut it to length, which is 21.5 inches.
Alright, now that we have our new piece for the apron cut to size, Bryan cut this to 3.5 inches wide by 21.5 inches long. We're going to just butt this up against one of the original pieces and trace the profile. I'm going to try to hold this up and just show you a little bit. It's got a nice little design in here, not too intricate, but we don't have any kind of special knife, and it'd be awfully expensive to order one just for this piece. So we're going to trace this onto the end grain of the new piece, and then Bryan's going to show you what we're going to do next.
Okay, now here comes the hard part. You've seen her trace out this profile. Well, I'm going to attempt to cut this out on the table saw by raising and lowering the blade just a little bit at a time, sliding this through and following right along with that profile just as close as I can. Let's see how this works.
Well, this piece of apron is coming together nicely. Now it's time for a whole lot of elbow grease. I'm going to lightly chisel some of these little steps away, and then take some 60 grit sandpaper and sand these curves into shape. All right, to try to sand right here in this little crevice, we have this Dremel multi-tool. and the sanding drum is 120 grit. So I'm going to very gently go along these edges and see if we can round those over.
Well, our new piece of apron is coming along pretty nice so far. You can compare here the profile of each one. There is one thing we're going to go ahead and do right quick that this one has, that this one don't. You can see this side is rounded over, and we will be able to do that with the router since it's right on the edge. So we'll go ahead and do that now before we go any farther. Alright, we are almost done with our new piece of this table apron. You can see we've got it all shaped up. The profile is good, rounded over the top. There's one more thing we have to do to this before we're finished. And if you can see one of the original pieces, it rounds over at the corner. Now I do believe this to be a 1/2 inch round over. So that's what we're going to do to this new piece. We're going to put a 1/2 inch round over on this side.
All right, so you can tell these still aren't just alike. We're going to try to shape this up a little bit more with just some hand sanding. And likely we aren't going to make them just the same, but you only see one corner at a time anyway, so it may not be that big of a deal, but we want to get it as close as possible.
Well, I said that was the last step, and I was wrong once again. If you'll notice, at the corners, the long apron and the short apron join together with a dado. So we're going to have to cut a dado in our new apron piece. It's about 1/4 inch wide. Well, we needed a piece of apron to match the rest of the apron that's on the table, and I don't think it turned out too bad.
It really is a pretty close match. The hardest part of this is going to be getting stain to make this blend in with the antique wood. So probably what we'll do is take one of these older pieces to the hardware store and see if they can color match for us, so that way we can get a stain that hopefully won't make this one stick out like a sore thumb. We'll also have to do some additional hand shaping over here, but we may do that once we get it assembled and on the table.
Well, that's another chapter in our antique table restoration series. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ring that bell to stay up to date on all of our new content.
Thanks again for joining us today. As always, happy woodworking!